and sit down.
アンソニーとしても知られているザ・スーパービッダン。マイケルとしても知られているザ・ミラクル。ラッシュダウンレビュー、ブレイズブルー、セントラルフィクション。
What is up, guys? This is Anthony, and today we are here to talk about BlazBlue Central Fiction. Now, it is said that this is the last BlazBlue game, as the director is not going to be making another fighting game as his next game. So, this may be our last hurrah for BlazBlue. Now, is it a good one? Is it a bad one? Is it a questionable one? Well, that's what we are here to talk about. I'm going to give you the good and the bad of Central Fiction. I might get a little technical, but just stick with me here. And let's get into it. So let's start off with the good. I got a lot of good for this game. So for one, since this seems to be a issue for fighting games today, let's just get off the bat. This has a lot of single player content. If you need to practice, it has a tutorial mode, it has a challenge mode, it has your standard training mode, it has a story mode, it has a library for people who don't understand the story, it has arcade, versus, score attack, time attack, survival, all that stuff that everybody who needs that single player content, it's got you covered. Now, what's really good about it is that all the single player content is, it's fairly good. Arcade mode is pretty different this time around. Depending on the character you pick, you'll have different paths and different acts. Not everybody has 3, but the standard is 3. And it gives you a lot to do, because if you don't want to go through the story, which I'll get to later, you get a little condensed version where you're pretty much fighting through your stages and you get this central idea of what the story is supposed to be about. Versus mode is what it sounds like. And the series staple survival mode, which is typically Abyss mode, got a bit of a tweak. This time around, instead of just going through the stages and picking up abilities as you go, you still get abilities as you go, but now it's more like you have to equip them with grimoires. It's a little bit of a jarring change. It's not too difficult. It's not so drastic that you won't be able to pick it up. It's just, why? But, I suppose that, with the new game, you gotta do something different, which is fine. I don't hate it. It's still survival mode. I think it's still pretty fun. So now we have their time attack, which is now speed star mode. I don't know why they had to change the names of these things. It's essentially the same thing. But speed star mode is pretty much time attack, where you choose a course and you go through it as fast as you can. Now, the catch is that it's a countdown, and every time you go into a round, you have various ways of building up your time. And as you go through it, it collects all your time, and you get bonuses from things like if you finish with an astro finish, if you finish with a distortion finish, and all those other things. It's, I want to say stressful, but not in the way that it makes you upset, but in a way that it makes you want to go through as fast as you can, pull off your big combos and make sure you do all the damage you can. It's pretty nice. I dig it. Score attack is the same it's ever been. If you've played score attack in BlazBlue before, then you know what score attack is here. It's not at all different. That's the only thing they've kept the same, which is surprising. But let's move on. Now, given the games that they've put out recently, namely Guilty Gear Revelator, which to this day has the absolute best way of teaching new players how to play the game, I was expecting something like that from BlazBlue, and I sort of got it. So it gives you a tutorial mode which teaches you the basics of the game, which is good because for newcomers, this game can be a little daunting, and it has lessons set up as beginner, intermediate, advanced, and character specifics. The great thing is It's not too boring because you have the ever witty banter of Hibiki and Kagura, which you may or may not come to enjoy. I enjoy them as I enjoy both characters. And the character specifics may be a little dry because it doesn't have that, but it does teach you the basics of what you need to know to pick up a character. And I do mean the basics. It teaches you some moves, it teaches you how to use them, and it tells you to go practice. That's all you really need. That's all. After that, you can go experiment. And I think that's fair. I don't think it should like hold your hand through the entire experience. You know, give you the basic tools, run out there, and then you can find your own 70, 80 hit combos with your favorite character. So if there was somebody you've always wanted to play and you just never knew how, and you don't have YouTube for some reason, then this is probably the tutorial mode you are going to be, enjoying. Let's go on. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the network mode. Now, this is where I'm going to start talking bad about the game. This is my first bad, okay? Network mode isn't bad by itself, but the netcode as of right now is a little jank. So what I mean by that is when it works wonderfully. But when it doesn't, which is more often than not, and that's probably because it doesn't have the American release yet, so, it may improve once that happens. But as of right now, the servers are not, no, it's not the servers, I'm sorry, it's the netcode that's crap. And I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. I want to say it'll get better. But one thing about BlazBlue is that their netcode has always been consistently questionable. And it really does mess up the flow of online when I'm sitting here trying to play ranked matches and it takes me like 5, maybe even 10 minutes to get into a match. That's annoying. And if you go on the player match, it may be the same thing. It depends on the room, and there are plenty of rooms to pick. It's just with everybody's varying connections from around the world right now, it doesn't handle it very well. The online lobby where you're a little chibi and you walk up to arcade machines come back, and it's still, the same. But what bothers me about that is, again, hard to find a game. And what annoys me the most is when somebody gets up, it looks like they're getting up and you're trying to log into that new spot, but because of the netcode, to you, it looks like you just got the spot. But then it's like, no, this person's been staying here for God knows how long because they just magically teleported there. It's annoying, but it's not something so game-breaking that I would just say, don't buy this game. And then they have this way of, how you're supposed to make a room. They have a way where you can design your own personal room to invite other players to play BlazBlue with you. And it's not necessarily bad. I feel like it's a way to, can make you continue playing the game so you can get your money up and you can have your own perfect little BlazBlue room. It's cute. I'll call it cute. Now, story mode. This is something I want to get into. This may be my last point because story mode is kind of boring. And I say boring because they have made strides to make it a little bit more interesting. So they took a few more anime cutscenes, and where there were once stills, they kind of made them look a little bit more dynamic in the sense that they move sort of and they talk. It's weird to look at. It's nothing like what you saw in the past stuff like Guilty Gear or anything like that. It's not that dynamic where it's constantly animated, but it's not so stilted like in the past BlazBlue games that I don't know, man. It kind of just looks like they took the stills and made puppets of them. That's about the best I can do as far as explaining what that portion is. And it has like fights sprinkled in there, but it's not so many fights that it breaks up the long text explanations of what the Imperator is doing, what Hazama is doing, what Terami's doing, what everybody's doing to screw over everybody else. It's so much of that in so few fights. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if they hadn't removed the English voice acting. Yep, I am going there because I really feel like to a lot of people, maybe not even to me, but to a lot of people, that was important and that was a selling point. And I feel like that needs to be discussed because all the games up to now have had it. There are people who are invested in these characters and voice acting is important. You can't just all of a sudden have have Ragna just not scream his angry ramblings in English. But, that may be not such a big deal to the more hardcore crowd. That's fine. But it is something to know. There is no English voice acting. So you're going to have to do a whole lot of reading if you want to get through the story, which unlocks my favorite character and his BGM and all that extra stuff. And it gets you a nice chunk of money where you can go into the gallery and buy more stuff. So I've done a lot of talking about BlazBlue. A lot of talking. And ultimately, I like the game. It plays well. I like the tweaks to the system that they've made. I like the content that it gives you. However, I am not a fan of its online mode. I am not a fan of the way it carries the story. And I am not the greatest fan of how some things have been explained as far as the tutorial system is concerned. Because while I do praise it for having it, I feel like it took a step backwards from its last game and could have made a tutorial mode that was as great as Revelators. But I feel like that may come off as an unfair comparison of the games. I just feel like if you can make a huge stride here, you can make just as huge of a stride elsewhere. But I am willing to give this game, if I had to give it a letter grade, I'd give it a B+. There we go. Give it a B+. Take what you will from that. And let me know what you guys think of the new BlazBlue. Ugh. Saying that is such a chore. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And I will see you all next time.